Thank you for tuning in to My Why podcast today. This is the podcast where we fuel passions, share journeys, and inspire dreams. We've got a fun episode for you today. Our guest is the incredibly talented Brian Waters, a true powerhouse in the media world. Brian is a host, podcast producer, videographer, and photographer. And let's not forget, a passionate wrestling aficionado. You've probably heard him as a host on the Ringer Wrestling Show or caught him on the Wrealm podcast. He's also the CEO and founder of Waters Productions, just to name a few of his many roles. Brian is the definition of an all-around media personality. Welcome, Brian, to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that wonderful intro.
Yes, you gotta get all your flowers. You do so much, and you are such a. We see you all over the socials and doing so many things. So it's not going unnoticed for sure.
I appreciate it. It means a lot, for real.
Yeah, and okay, so we're gonna get right into this because I've always wanted to ask you this question ever since I've seen. So I just want to congratulate you on something that many people have not been able to pull off in their life. And what I mean by that is that you get to spend your time talking about something that you actually enjoyed since you were a kid, and which is wrestling. And you're literally living some kid's dream right now. Like, how did you do that?
Thank you. So let's see. Which one? The fast, the long story, the short story.
Whatever you want to get.
So to begin to get into the media part of it. My uncle passed away. My uncle James, and I always wanted to have a sports show, right? Mm-hmm. And when I took one, it was supposed to be 1 year, ended up being 3 years. And I took 3 years out of school. And I remember I was working at Rent a Center. And during that time, I was sitting there and
were you chasing people down?
Yeah, I was one of them. Knocking, and I was going to people's houses. And I'd never like to take nobody's fridge or their bed.
Okay, all right.
But I've had people threaten to get their dogs on me. I had people, and I had some nice customers who give you nice tips. $20 for setting up their TVs and stuff. But at that time, and I don't think I really told this story too much as a part of the story. But my boy Anthony, he was a very passionate sports fan. He played football at high school, and I told him, man, I want to be a sports announcer. So we'd be riding in the truck, and at the time we had a little tape recorder, and we would record. It was called the A and B Conversation, and we would just be talking about what had you. Now you remember the note? Now you remember the notes section on Facebook? This is
was yes.
I've been on Facebook since 2004.
Yes. Facebook had a lot of iterations, but yes, I do remember. I had to go back into my bank for that one.
So during that time, I was at when I was coming out of community college, I would, the journalism class I took, I would always do sports, and then when I was working at Johns Hopkins in what was that department? Nutrition. It was a good friend of mine, George, at the time, and he said, "Whatever you want to do, write an article, but send it to different sports announcers and stuff." So I never thought about that. So I would do that. And then as time moved along, I wasn't in school. I would write on Facebook in the notes section. And then that translated to me talking about sports. And at that time, we're talking when Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol teamed up and the Lakers would go on and win championships. So me and Anthony would do our show and whatnot. But then when my uncle died in 2011, I was calling 2010. I was calling my cousin, and I was like, just checking on him. And me and him, we always talk wrestling. My aunt's house was the house where they ordered all the wrestling pay-per-views. So anytime you went over there, it was a wrestling tape on because either my uncle was watching or my cousins was watching. So we was talking, and then he was talking about some stuff he saw on YouTube that he didn't like. I said, well, we can kind of do that. He said, what you mean? I said, we can have a wrestling show. And that brought me into the wrestling side of things, and it
Oh,
felt like this is where you belong. This is the root.
yeah.
You know, I'm gonna keep it real. He would get in trouble. He would end up in jail as we were starting to climb the ranks.
Yeah.
I went back to school, went to Morgan State,
Yeah.
met the real Dwayne Allen.
Wow.
One day in Professor Glassby Millington's class, my friend Danny was talking about you guys. No, she was talking about we was doing introductions, and then
Yeah.
she kept saying, "Hey, he got a wrestling show." And I was like, now ain't the time to talk about that, Danny. She knew about it because the year before in the
Yeah.
research, semester before in the research class, we did the research on me and my cousin's show on like how
Mhm.
to research the analytics. So Dwayne is standing there, ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And I'm like, wait, this 6'7" basketball player who looked like he too cool for school, he like wrestling? Because we
Right.
had there was a certain stigma around wrestling fans.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I was like, "You a wrestling fan?" He said, "Yes, I am." And when I tell you a instant brotherhood was born, we would talk about it. And I remember saying, I said, "This is my new co-host." And I said, "What you think we do a show?" And we put that together to help us. Everything we was learning in the classroom, we was
Yeah.
applying it on
To the
our
show.
show.
Okay.
That's what created the Wrestling Realm. And next year we will be celebrating 15 years of
Wow.
that show. But it opened the door not only for me to like do what I'm doing now, but also just other media jobs, going to
Mhm.
ESPN, working at Johns Hopkins, people understanding that I know how to edit, shoot, produce, do social media. And the opportunity at the Ringer came up when a good friend of mine, when they had a partnership with the WWE, he
Mhm.
was like, "Yeah, pretty much." He said, "Hey, man, you interested in this?" And I'm here today because of him.
Wow. I mean, that's just a testament to like as I've listened to your story, like every part of it had everything to do with like having relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
like what would you say about that? Like how important relationships is to your when you're not just climbing in your career, but just in general and you're in that trying to
So
get
the
your career
coolest thing is because you just never know where things can happen, right? I
up.
mentioned a good friend of mine, right? When we was at ESPN together, we were essentially peers. He had been there
Yeah.
a couple years. I was a production assistant. He was a content associate, was like the next level up. But we were, kind of on the same, I don't want to say foot in the door, but sort of like the beginning levels of your career.
Hmm.
And I go to Johns Hopkins. He goes to his ventures, believe CBS and a couple other places. He ends up in Spotify. Now he's in management, right?
Yeah.
And he lived as he climbed. He saw an opportunity, and he was my manager until he left the company. But he was my manager for like 5 or 6 months, and
Wow.
I was like, it was cool because we built relationships. It was like a couple years prior, well, maybe 7 years prior, we was in my living room playing Madden on PlayStation 4, and now he
Yeah.
was sitting up there vouching for me to get the opportunity. And I made a decision while I was at Morgan where I said, anybody who knows me gonna know I like wrestling. This is what I want to do. I
Yeah.
remember we went to the National Association of Black Journalism short course, Dwayne and I,
Okay.
and everybody had to introduce themselves. And I said,
Where did you do yours at? Where university did you
North
do it?
Carolina A&T.
Oh, you did it. It's always at A&T, I think. I was right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Shout out
yeah.
to Miss Wiggins.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so shout out to Mr. Wickham. He sent us there. Him, Jerry Bembry. They was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
man," and it was during our spring break, the final spring break
Of
of
your
college. And I was like,
well, the same thing happened to me. It was at the end of my college career every year.
"Yeah."
Yep. Yep.
And you go down there, and you see all these other people who are like passionate, and I said, "Okay, cool." So we go down there, and man, it was so much fun. And I remember now, like in Morgan, people was like, "Oh yeah, that's Brian Dwayne and they're wrestling
Yeah.
ish." I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, this the wrestling stuff, this that. And I'm
Mhm.
like, they was hating.
Mhm.
Nah, A&T, they was showing us love. They was like, "So
Wow.
wait, you're the guy who wants to do WWE stuff?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm showing them intros that me and Dwayne hadn't released yet.
'Cause it
I was like,
almost seems like people thought at that time you got to go back, because most time people never explore different avenues.
mm-hmm,
Most people stayed on the traditional routes of things. So like you have to think about like people are looking at it like how is this even possible? You guys are doing this. It's like,
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because when you think about what it was at that time,
yeah.
mind you, this is 2012, 2013. I
Mm-hmm.
remember you had a couple of people out there who were creating their own lanes, but it wasn't, everybody didn't know how easy it was to set up a YouTube channel, right?
Right. They thought it
Now,
was really complicated.
yeah. Now I have hot takes that I'll reserve when you call upon them, but everybody didn't realize that. And I gotta always give a shout out to Eric Dotson, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever took his class, but
I never took Watson's class.
one of the things he would do I took 2 or 3 of his classes. The first day of class was always an
Maybe I should
introduction.
mention this. Hold on. We're both Morgan State alums, so
Yeah.
that's what when I said that. That's what I'm assuming y'all I didn't mention that, but yes, we are both proud Morgan State University alums. Go
Right.
ahead.
And so the first day of his class, what he will always do is an intro. You had to tell him who you were, where you're from, what your major was, what your concentration was, and what was your goals. And then for everybody who said whatever their goals was, right? He said, "What are you doing now?" And I remember I'm sitting there and I'm probably like, let's just say out of 20 people, I'm like 15. I said, "Oh, I got something for him. I can't wait. I can't wait." So he comes to me. He says, "So, I said, I'm Brian. I'm from, right from Baltimore. Looking, my time was television production, and I have a wrestling talk show. Here is my business card." He's like, "Wow." He said, "This is exactly what I'm talking about." Because, like, if somebody said, "Oh, I want to be a music blogger," he said, "Are you going to concerts? Are you taking a camera, going to concerts, setting up?"
Are
And
you using what you have while you have it
yes,
to get to where you want to go?
and a
Wow.
lot of people didn't understand that. And I remember he said, "Thank you." He said, "This is exactly what I'm talking about." He said, "I'm gonna go check it out." Now, anybody know Eric Dotson? He gonna have, he added a little creative control, because one day I was on campus at one of his I popped in one of his classes and he started talking. He said, "Yeah," he said, he said, Brian and his co-host, they was at Morgan View during that show, had posters on the wall. I'm like, it wasn't at
Oh my
Morgan View, it
God.
was at Dwayne's house. But he was telling everybody about that. And
Yeah.
that was the thing. Like, I think back, like when we was in college, Dwayne's parents, my parents sitting up there letting us do our shows in each, the basements,
Yeah.
doing the projects there. But we knew exactly what we wanted to do. And the crazy part is now we got all the resources. We just don't have as much time like we did in college
Yeah.
to
It
say,
flips when you get it flips.
yeah, look. We was using just standard cameras, no microphones, using lights from the fluorescent lights. Now
Right.
we got the best lighting. We got good microphones. We just don't
But you
have the same.
also was content with like, bro, I didn't go get something from the Dollar Menu from McDonald's because that's all I got. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was a different time. There was like in college or just the time when you didn't have to worry about real adult. Like you were an adult, but it was like an intermediate period before you had to really become an adult.
Yeah, and
Like,
see me, I was a non-traditional student, so I was
yeah,
24, 25.
yeah.
And the thing was too, like, I always say that opportunity. I remember my first day at ESPN, and no, my interview at ESPN in person. They call the car wash, where they fly you up, rent you a car, rent you a hotel, and then they want to basically see, okay, are you worth it? Do you know how to govern yourself?
Yeah.
And when I told the lady who would become one of my direct reports, she was like, "Wait, you got a wrestling show? Let me see." And boom, showed it on YouTube. And I remember going to the hotel room that night. I said, "Yo, Dwayne, our show really
Did
worked."
you interview at Bristol?
Yes.
Okay, so I used to work for ESPN. So did you stay at the Homewood Suites?
It was 2013, so I don't
So maybe
even.
everybody stay at the
It was. I'll
same
tell
hotel.
you, it was off of, what was that one street where
It's
the
only
shopping
but so
store
much
was.
over there. So I was like, when do everyone say the same hotel? Okay, anyway,
Not where Target, but where Walmart was. That one street. I
I don't
forgot,
even remember
It
the
was
name.
in Southwood, Southland, Southington.
Yeah, I had a whole little suite to myself when
I
I.
gotta go there again, just because my daughter was born there, and she was
Oh
like, "Daddy,"
wow,
we moved back when she was seven
yeah.
months old, and she was like, I want to go to Connecticut. I want to see what it's like. So, like she was playing, like one day she was playing a WWE video game, and she types in it was like hometown, Bristol, Connecticut. I'm like, well, you're not wrong, but you're raised
Yeah.
in Baltimore.
Close enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so okay, so like I said, I wanted to have some fun with you because I thought about you made me think about when I was a teenager, and Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, SmackDown would come on. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my era. I think it's called the Attitude Era or whatever. That was like my era when they had The Rock, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Triple H, The Undertaker, Chris Angle, and I used to always wait for Rafiki to show
Rikishi.
yeah, Rakishi to make an appearance. He never
Yeah.
was always there, but then you can catch, the episodes where he would be on, So, like, what was your favorite era of wrestling? Like, what's the era that you enjoy
Ooh,
talking about, that you enjoy, that you love?
it's so tough. That's probably one of the toughest questions because the Attitude Era is what when I saw wrestling sort of become cool and
Mm,
mainstream, and it was fun. It's the memories I have with my god brother, my late uncle Mike, um, and but then there's the sort of the I'm young and old enough to remember the end of the golden era, so I
mm,
remember seeing Hogan and Macho Man and Warrior, and then
yeah,
transition to the new generation era where it was when I felt like sort of on an island by myself. Like, this is the thing I like. This is the thing. Shout out to my uncle Troy, who just turned 50, who was responsible for like really pushing me into it because
yeah,
he was like when I was young, cut my hair, and wrestling was always on. So but during the new generation era, it felt like it was just like a few of us. But then attitude, there's this boom period. So there's that part. But then, like for my professional life, it's the pre Triple H era, like the end of
mm,
the era. We'll
yeah.
just call it the Bloodline era. So we're talking, 2022 to 2024, like
Okay.
that. Because now it's like I'm working and I'm getting the
Mhm.
opportunity to be at WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing, like all the like inner workings.
Uh-huh.
So it's a tough question, but I think if I had to if I could only pick one, it's nothing that give me chills like the Attitude Era.
Yeah, but I think inherently I choose that because that's nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
That's just like I know 7 o'clock on Thursday night. I
Mm-hmm.
need to be in front of that TV to see what happens. You know what I
It's
mean? So,
and me, I didn't have cable from '97 to 2001,
oh, okay.
so SmackDown was important. My grandmother, God rest her soul, would always record Raw for me, but I knew SmackDown.
SmackDown.
I was at Kmart or Walmart. I made sure I had a stack of tapes, and
Yeah.
if the money was good, I had the Sony tapes, the
Yep.
or Memorex, the 8 hours, to put it on
Mhm.
EP mode. See, they don't know about that or SLP
Say
mode.
that up.
That way
Not
I
at
could
all.
maximize it, and those are the times. And like it's funny because like shout out to my girlfriend Queen PR of those wrestling girls. Her
Yeah.
and I will sit back and go back. Like the other day we was here and watching the like one of the Stone Cold's her favorite. Like
Mhm.
if you
Like
get
all
into the
time.
Austin Rock conversation,
Yeah.
you're not going to win.
Oh,
but we was watching some of those old clips, and then sometimes you just sit back, you think back. Oh, it was like when Mankind was about when he won the title, and Austin comes out
mhm.
to save the day. It's like it gives you chills.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember. I just remember that feeling of it, and just the excitement of it, and playing my Game Boy Color, playing the game on my game. That yeah,
Oh,
no, I was me and my sister, my middle sister. We was true to it. We
I
was
love
not
it.
playing, right? So, but there was a point that I did fall off because I don't know if it was because you're right. It was maybe just the pandemonium of it at that time. It was a much bigger boom of people paying attention to it. And I can't pinpoint. Do you know the year that there was like a little bit of a slope that happened? Because I know.
WrestleMania
Oh, go ahead.
17, 2001.
Yep. Okay.
Austin turns heel. Rock goes to Hollywood. And so
Mhm.
wrestling was on this boom period. Vince buys WCW. We thinking we're gonna get these dream matches,
Yeah.
and then it
And it's
just
the WWE, doesn't it? Isn't that that same time to switch from?
that would happen the next year.
Okay,
So
okay,
we would actually we would get that 2 years later. I'm sorry. So
okay,
that
okay.
happened in 2003. But yeah, when or was it 2002? It was no, it was 2000. Yeah, uh,
One of them.
yeah, it was 2002 when it happened. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but yeah. So when Vince bought WCW, you saw like the scale back in the creative, and it was just like
Mhm.
there was no competition, so it wasn't the same
Right.
sense of urgency. And
Right.
then the invasion happens. The problem is you can't get the dream matches we wanted. Like if you knew people who watched WCW, watched WCW, it was always we want to see Hogan versus Austin,
Mhm.
Goldberg versus Stone Cold, The Rock versus Sting. We couldn't
Yeah.
get those matches because I mean, if somebody tell you you can still stay at home and still collect
Mhm.
your millions of dollars, you're not going to work, you
That
know.
to possibly get hurt too.
Yeah, so
You know?
we got no offense, but we got like Booker T, which was great for him because he was the
Yeah.
world champion and his profile raised. But we got DDP and other people that just like people's like, who are they? So we didn't get the
Yeah.
big stars, but that's when it kind of shifted from being such this mainstream thing that everybody is
Mhm.
watching to back down to okay, just a few of us are watching it now.
Yeah, yeah, and I just remember that because like I said, I really was obsessed with it at that
Mhm.
time, and then there was that point that happened, and then I think it might have just been the learning curve of introducing new people, of seeing if even want to pay attention to this person, right?
And it's also a curve a lot of times with people where it's a time when they're going from like middle school to high school or
Mm-hmm.
high
Oh,
school to college where
true.
your world is opening up. So that time period hit so many things at once for a lot
Yeah.
of people where
Yep.
it kind of got them out of it until usually there's like the one story like I saw like when Raw debuted on Netflix this past January. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who wasn't watching, but they said, "Okay, wrestling on Netflix. Let me check it out." Well, you see the Tribal Chief, who I think is the greatest of all time, Roman Reigns,
Mm-hmm.
come out there, and then you see him win his match, and then you see The Rock come out and essentially annoy him with the Ula Fala. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, wait, this guy's somebody who we should be paying attention to." And
Right.
then you see how the women go out there; they're actually wrestling with Rhea
And I think
Ripley and Liv
that's
Morgan.
been a big shift too, with
Yes,
paying
absolutely.
attention to the women's side of wrestling. Like,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts about that? Because I did notice, like in most more recent times, it's almost like they're getting more attention, but just as much attention. You know.
It's a great thing. See, I've been a huge women's wrestling fan. Part of my career in the wrestling industry was I used to do social media for a wrestling company called Women's Superstars
Huh.
Uncensored, which later was renamed. I think it was named Women's Superstars United, but it's WSU.
Hmm.
And a few of the wrestlers, Michin, she was on that roster. She's a good
Hmm.
friend of mine. She's now in WWE. I'm still waiting for her to get that U.S. title win so I can cry like a baby.
Right.
But she was there. Jordan Grace, who's wrestling or is a special guest referee tonight, she was there. So there was a lot of people where what it was is if you had to go to the independents
Mhm.
or to find the women who are actually wrestling, and
Yeah.
WWE was all about the divas, and during
Yeah.
your era, there
Yeah.
was the Sables and the Sunnies, and then
Mhm.
when Trish Stratus came, she had to sort of like reprogram the audience. So one of the things she did was she's like, I'm not wearing shorts no more. I'm gonna wear pants. I want people to take my wrestling serious. Her and Lita
Yeah.
was able to go out there and have great matches, but and then there was Victoria and Mickey James, but then once Trisha kind of went to retirement. She wanted to go start her family. They kind of shifted to the Divas era, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, go out there and have a 5 minute match.
Mhm.
And those women were just as athletic as the
Yeah.
ones who are wrestling today, and they set the pathway. But the problem is, they just wasn't respected until 2015, where it was like enough is enough, and you had the Give Divas a Chance movement,
Mhm.
and that was led by AJ Lee. But then AJ Lee leaves, sort of, and then a lot of times she didn't really get to enjoy the fruits of her labor until
Mhm.
now, where she just made her recent comeback. But it's beautiful to see. Not only are the women showcased and allowed to have 10, 20 minute matches, but also main event the show.
Yeah.
You had Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, two
Yeah.
black women, main event WrestleMania
That's huge.
37. And that
Yeah.
was incredible. And like my daughter, that's what made her fall in love with it. She
Wow.
would watch it before because I was watching it, but once she like saw that match, she was
Yeah.
hooked. And she's a fan of both of them, and then she finds other ones that she's a
Yeah.
fan of. So it's been great because it's also the best part is all the women don't look the same,
Right.
and it's just like the best story. So it's not so much, oh, it's just women's wrestling. Like, no, what's the best story? And you'll see
Yeah.
that sometimes they will main event a show.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and
Mm-hmm.
you're the only person I can think of that I can ask this question to, because I heard this question on another podcast. I can't remember. I want to quote them, but I can't remember the name of it. It was a podcast I heard. Would you consider wrestlers the best actors that you know?
Oh, that's a great question. Are you talking as far
Like, it would
as
should they be considered in the acting arena, because it is a form of acting, right?
1,000% they should
So I
because
thought I heard that question. I said I remember thinking, I said, I'm gonna save that question for you, because that is a very interesting question.
I appreciate that. Yeah, they should be because you'll learn a lot of times when you like I have if I was to turn my camera on, you see like I got over 300 wrestling DVDs and Blu-rays. So I've watched a lot of the documentaries, and there's two things. There's either the wrestlers who are themselves turned up 10 notches.
Hmm.
That's their character, like the Miz. Or you'll have somebody like Shawn Michaels who says he was never a quote unquote sexy boy. He was never somebody who was all going talking to the women, and that was never him, but that's what he
Yeah,
wanted to be. So wrestling gave him the room to do that. So I think that they should be considered some of the best actors. Maybe sometimes it doesn't always translate to Hollywood or
yeah.
behind a movie screen, but you sit up there. I've seen some of them go out there and they call working the gimmick. I don't know if you ever seen Young Rock.
Like, oh, the show that
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite shows. I'm
It
so
was
mad
good.
because yes,
Okay.
it's Rock's love letter to wrestling, and his dad would always say, "You got to work the gimmick, baby," because he would go out and he might not pay his bills or he might act a certain
Mhm.
way, but
Yeah,
he would always make sure he have a good car and make sure because he had to showcase, like he had to live this aura, he had to live his gimmick. It's kind of like like with rappers and stuff. So
yeah,
I think, but even then, because they still got to go out there and memorize their lines,
yeah.
we're not at a point like during the Attitude Era. It was okay. Here's your bullet points. Say what you got to say.
Yeah.
Now it's read this word for word, unless you're a top
A
star.
script. It's
So
like
they
an
got to
actual
remember that.
script. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that when I heard that, I thought that was so interesting, because I think in my mind, like everybody, we know the truth, but it's like, let me just enjoy the fantasy of it.
That's what I always
I
tell
think that's
people.
what it is. It's like, I hate when people say, well, wrestling's not real.
Show me
Okay.
on TV what is.
But right. So the whole point is the fantasy
Mm-hmm.
is to be able to enjoy the fantasy of it, the rivalries, all of that, all combined in one is a great time. This is
Yes.
the whole point. This is why when you go to a live match, or you go to see Raw or whatever, you get the adrenaline rush, you get all of that, because you're able to be a kid. No matter how
Mm-hmm.
old you are, you're able to have that childlike imagination, just with you and all that. So I think that
Oh,
I
my
just look
friends know when we at the show. Do not sit there and try to book the show with me.
at
I do not try to say, well, they should have did this. They should have did. No, save that conversation for
yeah.
after the show. We're gonna sit there. Shout out to my brother Cal from the Black Wrestling Podcast. One of the best people to watch wrestling with. It was me, him, Ben, my lady, and my boy Cam Seahawk. We was all watching WrestleMania 40 as Cody Rhodes was finishing that darn story, and the soundtrack throughout that just that night, not even just that match, throughout that night that Cal was providing us with, just being in the moment, funny, couple little extra drinks. It's fun,
Mhm.
like it's so much fun. It's like when you watch a movie, you go there, you go to
Yeah.
enjoy the movie, and that's how I
Yeah.
love consuming pro wrestling.
Yeah, and shout out to your girl because you know what, that Mallory makes your life a lot easier knowing that she's just as enthusiastic as you are with it. You know, because like I said, I'm a woman, so I get it. So because some it's just not naturally a woman's. If you think the traditional terms,
Mm-hmm.
you know, women they don't really like go after. But there's people who have their different niches that they enjoy, they love it. So shout out that you were able to like find somebody that you can just enjoy that too with.
And the funniest thing is, there's a secret though. Like a lot of people, because we were both existing in this podcast space
Yeah,
separately, right? And then
yeah,
like if anything,
yeah,
you start networking.
yeah,
We was just strictly friends first,
yeah.
and after we kept getting closer. Realized we had way more than that. And I remember shout out to my boy Sid Vid, who does he's like Wale's one of Wale's personal photographers and
Hmm.
does the photography for Wale Mania. I said, yo, you gonna do the wedding? He said, yeah, I already know it's gonna be wrestling theme. I said, no, it's not. I said, because the thing is, like, we talk wrestling, obvious. Like, we'll send each other like certain news or stuff we hear throughout the day, or we might even see something like, oh, you see, this was funny, or I might watch it and but if there's times where we'll tune out, like, man, this
Yeah,
ain't hitting right now. And then it's
right.
easier for her because she's not like working directly in it all the time.
Yeah.
So and then we'll be up there talking about Power. We just finished The Wire, so we
Yeah, I recently watched that for the
Mhm.
first time like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And I watched it from front. Now, did I
that's
watch season two? That's
I,
debatable.
I learned. I tried to watch it during the
It's
pandemic, right?
debatable.
Season 2 was difficult, but when
Whew.
I told her, she said,
I
"No,
know
we're
you
gonna
need a
try it."
backstory, but whew.
And she said, "We're gonna do it again." And so when we said that, she said, "No, we're gonna." She said, "Once you power through it," and that's what everybody kept saying. You just power through season 2, and then
Yeah,
it'll all make sense.
yes, yes.
And I still say it's one of the greatest shows on
Yeah,
TV.
and I will stand on ceremony to say that
Hmm.
watching it now, you have to understand how big that was then to understand
Yes.
why it was so good for people to watch because it's in some sense it has there's a nostalgia to it, but it was
Hmm.
really raw. And then for
Yeah.
somebody like you who's from the area, there's this certain
Yeah, a couple
nuances.
of people. My godbrother was in there. He threw
Yeah,
one of the dudes an alley oop in the. I think that was season 1 or season 3.
yeah,
Maybe it was season. But yeah, he was in there. I went to school with two of the characters. Matter of fact, the
yeah,
girl, who was the light skinned girl, I think her name was Chandrise. We was in the same speech and debate class. She's 3 years
wow,
younger than me, and I remember
yeah,
they said, Rakaka's in The Wire. I was like, what? They said, yeah, you see her little self in the, and she was in the movie, like in there,
yeah.
she's in a middle schooler, but she's clearly like 15 or 16.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it just kind of like you have to understand the nuance, and there's so
Hmm.
many things about it. But like, because people watch it, be like, well, I don't, this is not the best. Well, it's like watching. I love The Sopranos.
See, now we on
I
that now
can't.
because she's watched that multiple times.
I can't start The Sopranos because if I
Hmm.
start The Sopranos, I'm going to be sitting here for the next 2 weeks watching it again.
Yeah.
I don't even start it. I don't even.
Oh yeah, I'm
I
so excited to finally get into it
Oh my god,
because
you haven't seen it?
no, and my mother and when my mother's brother, my uncle Mike, when he was transitioning, but
Yeah,
before, she said they would sit on the phone and watch it together, and that was like one of their
you're
bonding
in for a
moments.
treat.
So I am,
Oh, it's such a treat. Every time I watch
yeah.
it, it's just such a treat, and I want to eat Italian food the whole time through. Like I just want to. I just
I kid you
like
not, we was just talking about that part because I was like, there's not too many times I want to eat food from, I gotta
yeah,
finish the rest of the sentence. I said, but the Italian food, I said, it's just something about it. And,
yeah,
and we just finished the episode where where Tony decided not to kill the guy who was with the daughter, the soccer
yes,
coach.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he was like, and I was like, he made the right decision. But
It's so
I would have understood.
complex.
Yes.
It's like you're rooting for him, but also you're killing people. So it's like I just love it. I will say like Sarah, I will say that Sopranos is one of my top shows. Like I'm in the middle of rewatching Curb Your Enthusiasm right now
Okay, never
for
seen
a
that.
thousandth time. I've
Okay.
watched that show so much; it's insane. But yeah, so like it's all the little shows. I love catching up on classic television,
Yeah.
classic shows, all of that. So all right, so let's so the next thing I want to ask you is like what would you tell somebody who is like pursuing their passion in media and like also they have a particular niche they want to go into that they are very passionate about that and they're very sure about, you
Hmm.
know, like yourself, like what would you do, what would you tell them, you know, if they're scared, they might be scared or, you know, and they might not think that they'll be able to just focus on that one thing or not be able to achieve it. Like, what would you tell that person?
So as much as I complain, I'm gonna sound like an oxymoron, but as much as I complain about these new age athletes coming into space without an education in it, I always still believe like what God has for me is for me.
Hmm.
So I will always tell people to go for it, and just you will find your tribe. Like
Yeah.
if you'd have told me, there's quite a few people in my life who I'm not as close with that I may have once been, but there was a time in 2021 and 22. Matter of fact, this was at those wrestling girls anniversary party,
Hmm.
and in there, there's me from the wrestling realm and the ringer,
Hmm.
and then there's her and her co-host. Shout out to Krista B. Then there's the Cal and the rest of the crew, fam, man from Black Wrestling. Then there's the Black Announce Table. Then there's the Jobberteers. There's all these black podcasters, the Mixed Tag Show.
Yeah.
And you see all these black people in this bar, Legends, all of us who was just celebrating those wrestling girls' anniversary.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for the next night is the WWE Survivor Series. We're all wrestler fans. And I remember just thinking, like, where was y'all when I was growing up? I'm sitting out here getting made fun of this, made fun of my
Wow.
love for this. Where were y'all? Then 2 months later, in February, there was a show in DC, and
Mm.
it was majority black.
Wow.
To the point, you know that C Murder song?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Shout
down.
out to the homie Moses. Yeah, that was his intro, and he was going
Uh,
against he was going against my boy, he's Killian McMurphy, who's a white guy, white guy, long hair. He's
yeah.
going like they're getting ready to have a match, and he comes out to this thing, and Killian's just like, and he tweeted like the next day, like when somebody posted the intro, he said, "What was I
Yeah.
supposed to do with that?" But he come when I tell you, it was like such a black show. We all took a picture, and shout out to my unofficial bloodline, Britt Waters. She was there, and we're still trying to figure out the exact relation. But we was down there, and I remember we was all sitting there, and it's all of us again, black wrestling fans. It's just
Hmm.
like, where was everybody? So I always tell people, you will find your tribe, you'll find your niche. Now there's a program, a promotion called Ashe Wrestling, and it's black owned. Shout out to Darius Lockhart. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hmm.
My good friend Keith Mack, who I work with at ESPN, we again find people. Like people's like, oh wait,
Relationship.
you a wrestling fan? Oh, you got to
Hmm.
meet Keith Mack. And we
Yeah.
finally met, and this is the beginning of the WWE Network. So me and Keith walking, them hollow halls of ESPN. We
Yes.
walking through there, looking at the WWE Network, watching wrestling. So absolutely just an incredible, so I always tell people, you'll find your tribe, go for it, learn the craft, get a mentor, learn from the professionals. I know a
Yeah.
lot of times I am a person, I am somebody who loves college and believes in it, but I do know sometimes people are hands-on. Take a
Yeah.
workshop, take a class.
And I
Don't
know
go
you
into
mentioned
nothing
you went to
blindly.
community college too, and I went to community college
Mm-hmm.
too. And I will say this: I learned more hands-on at community college
Mm,
than I did at traditional university.
okay.
The hands-on skills I know with my editing and all that, I actually got that from community college. Lighting, I learned that at community college. So it could be different ways. So
Yep.
I agree with you on that. Like
I'm,
it
I'm
just
glad you said that too, because see, for me, they didn't have broadcast
oh
journalism or in production at
yeah.
Baltimore City Community College, but I took some of the best English classes there. And the thing is, the teachers they don't want the stigma of it being 13th, 14th grade.
Right.
So you're going to have these one-on-one conversations, but they're
Mm-hmm.
going to challenge you and
Mm-hmm.
make sure, and then you're also a lot of times it's well-rounded because you're there with people who are
I
non-traditional
mean,
students.
you could be somebody at 50, or you could be sitting
Yeah,
next to
me and my
a
mother
19
was
year old.
at school at the same
Yeah,
time. It's funny, we was just talking about this yesterday,
yeah.
and she was I went that she decided to retire from daycare and go to next year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the classes, somebody was like, "Where's Miss Robin?" I said, first of all, I said, you had to respect because most people call by their first name, but they was something
Yeah.
there, and I said, my mother famous. People, my classmates asking, is she gonna be in this class?
That
But
is so funny.
we
I
had a
did
lot
the
of the same
same thing.
teachers.
Me and my dad, when he went to as a community college, me and my dad was in the same class,
Mm.
but he was in the back talking while the teacher was trying to. But the professor was trying to, and it was like, Mr. Benson, do you have? Oh, he said no. He was the one cutting up a class. I was sitting in the front. Okay, so it's funny. It's funny.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, though.
Yeah, so I don't think there's just one. There's no one traditional way of
Exactly.
anything. I don't believe of anything, and I think
Mhm.
So I see what you're saying with that.
Yeah, and they starting younger. Like, my son is 15. He's at Baltimore School for the Arts,
Mhm.
and he's me and Queen PR we're big Beyond the Gates fans.
Yeah,
That's the black soap
yeah. I mean,
opera.
I catch y'all clips.
Yeah, so he produced our theme music.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and so I was like, I said, because I was saying, look, I can't do music. Like, I can put stitch some things
Yeah,
together in an audition, but I know my limits. And I'm
yeah,
like, you make a theme song for me? I said, I want it to sound like that, but give it a little remix.
yeah.
Boom. And I was like, so
Nice.
I sent it to her. She's like, wow. So that's with our company, Six Heart Media. And, we've, watching him because one day it was a Friday night. He's like, Dad, I want to go to this workshop at Micah, the art school. I said, all right, cool. I'm tired, but I'll pick you up, because I want him to be able to get this experience.
Mhm.
And, you seeing some of the work that these kids are doing in animation. I'm like, wow, this
Woo.
is incredible.
It's next level, and I think also too with even this AI stuff coming in, you got to
Hmm.
know how to leverage a lot of that
Yes.
stuff. You got to know how to. You don't have to be perfect at it, but you should know how to use it. You should.
Hmm.
It's just the way the industry is moving. It's just the way the industry is flowing,
Yep.
and that it just is what it is. So, obviously, this podcast is called My Why. And so, what is your why? Why do you continue to keep going? Why do you continue to keep pivoting when you need to? Why do you continue to keep on this path?
Well, one is, I enjoy content. I enjoy talking about it. I do enjoy being able to be relatable to people. And I think that's always been one of my strengths of when I'm on the microphone.
Mm,
The fun part is when I'm going to say, like, we do our WrestleMania, SummerSlam trips, and I meet people. I love being able to connect, and then they'll say, "Oh man, we love how you can go back in time in wrestling because you regurgitate a memory or stuff like that." So I love being able to do that, and then having two kids, I know like they look up to me. So I always want to show them that they can go out there and achieve their dreams. They can do anything they put their mind forth, and knowing that I'm gonna have their support. So, and then I've been blessed with two wonderful parents who worked hard so that I could do what I want to do. And that's what I
right.
told my kids. I said, your grandfather, he been driving truck for years, and he would always say, I work hard so you don't have to. And because of that, I can do these things. So that's part of a lot of my why.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. So, we're going to go to the next segment. It's a new segment for season two. I have. It's
Mhm.
called Questions That Need Answers.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm going to, there's four categories. I'm going to tell them to you. So, you'll pick a category and then you'll pick a number between 1 through 5. And then that, whatever question you land on, that's going to be the question I give you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, the first category is creativity and process. Second category is ideas and imagination. Third category is philosophical and reflective, and fourth category is playful and unexpected. And so pick a number. So pick a category and then a number through to 1 through 5.
Hmm. Let's do, what is it, Playful Unexpected? Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that one. And I graduated 2004.
All right. So number 4. All right, here we go. Would you rather lose your ability to imagine or your ability to execute ideas?
Oh, that's tough. Well, I would rather lose my ability to imagine because if I surround myself with a great team, I can
Very.
execute their ideas.
Hey, that's actually a very compromise. But then again, you won't be able. So what about when you're alone though? You don't have no imagination.
I
That
just play
sucks.
video games at
All
that
right.
point.
Oh, you know what? You can build. You can just do it on outwardly more than inward. All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so we're gonna be wrapping up after. So this is the last segment to wrap up. Like I mentioned before, this segment is called "Be Encouraged," and this is the segment that I always have for my guests. Like before I do each episode, I always just pray and meditate on like who just something that to feed you with because you just fed us with information and just so. I was telling you, I wrote this. This came to me yesterday.
Mhm.
It was around like 7 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock. So I wrote it exactly how I got it. Ready?
Mhm.
All right. No dream has been deferred. Everything is about timing. Don't think you won't be able to reach all your dreams you have in you. Don't think you won't be able to reach all your dreams you have in you. But as you always hear, everything is about timing. It may not be the time, it may not be the time, but when it hits, it's going to hit. And I wrote that in big letters.
Mm.
Don't be weary in doing well. Nothing goes unnoticed. Don't ever be discouraged. Trust his timing like you always have. You have always reaped and it has never changed in your life. Trust it. Trust it. Trust who you are. As is, it's you are enough. So I hope that resonates.
You must have known. You must have knew exactly what I needed.
Yeah, that's what I got for you
I
yesterday.
appreciate
So
that.
I hope
Thank
that
you.
resonates with
Oh,
you.
yes, absolutely. It's been.
And I have to stress when that part it says it may not be the time, but when it hits, it's gonna hit. I wish I could show you how big I wrote that. It's
Mhm.
so big because when it hits, it's going to hit.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
you just trust the timing and trust that you're on the right. You're doing the right thing at the right time.
I
So
appreciate that.
yeah. So anytime you want to feel discouraged, just remember that.
Yes, absolutely. I will. I received that
Yeah.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I didn't so I always end up that, but it's always So, but like I said, I hope you receive that, and I'm just so grateful that you were able to come on the show today to just talk and have a good conversation. Like I said, it was fun. It was always good to talk about just about everything. But I hope that somebody that was listening to this episode, they were able to just be encouraged and be able to just be encouraged to just follow their dreams. And it's okay if you have a lane that you honed in on and that you will be able to accomplish it. Just
Mhm.
keep going and find your tribe, because that seems like that's the most important, really one of the biggest lessons is finding your tribe, because when in your tribe, that's where you'll thrive. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I will everybody like, subscribe, do all the good things. So all right, thank y'all. Bye.